something using Legos before. Do those little plastic pieces get to decide how you put them together? No, you're the one that gets to decide that. Or suppose that your dad goes out and he buys a brand new lawnmower. Who owns that mower and who gets to decide when and where and how it will be used? Does your neighbor get to decide that? No, your dad does. Well, now think about the maker and creator of all things. Since God created everything, who owns everything? Psalm 24 tells us, "The earth is the Lord's, and the fullness thereof, the world and those who dwell therein." Every single thing in this world belongs to God, including every person. So, who has the right to decide how everything will look, how it will act, and what will happen to it? Who gets the final say in whether you're tall or short, whether you have light hair or dark hair, whether you go to the zoo next week or not, whether it's going to be sunny or snowy tomorrow? God does. Psalm 115 says, "Our God is in the heavens. He does all that he pleases." In Daniel chapter 4, the word of God says, "He does according to his will among the hosts of heaven and among the inhabitants of the earth. And none can stop him or say to him, 'What have you done?'" These verses are teaching us the truth that God is sovereign. We've already talked about how God is the creator and how he is wise and almighty. Well, now, as we think about this truth that God is sovereign, it's sort of like taking those three and putting them all together. See, God has the right to do with his creation whatever he decides to do. God has the wisdom to make all his plans work out perfectly. And God also has the power to make all his plans happen. No one can stop him. So when we say that God is sovereign, what we are saying is that God has the right, wisdom, and power to do as he pleases. In other words, God's in charge. He has the final say. Everything and everyone are under God's authority and rule. God decides when the sun will come up in the morning and when it will go down at night. God controls how many times your heart will beat in a day. God determines how many brothers or sisters you will have. And we could just go on and on and on. We saw the sovereign God at work in our last video. God was sovereign in choosing Israel to be his special chosen people. God was sovereign over the terrible plagues he sent upon the Egyptians. God was sovereign over Pharaoh. After that horrible 10th plague, Pharaoh told Moses in Exodus chapter 12, "Go up out from among my people, both you and the people of Israel, and go serve the Lord." But God's sovereign work didn't stop there. As many of you know, there's more to this story. As you read those next verses, I want you to look carefully at the many different things God sovereignly controlled. We read, "And the Lord hardened the heart of Pharaoh, king of Egypt, and he pursued the people of Israel. And Moses said to the people, 'Fear not, stand firm and see the salvation of the Lord, which he will work for you today.' Then Moses stretched out his hand over the sea, and the Lord drove the sea back by the strong east wind all night, and made the sea dry land, and the waters divided. And the people of Israel went into the midst of the sea on dry ground." And then finally, when Israel was safely on the other side of the sea, God had Moses stretch out his hand once again, and God returned the waters, destroying all of the Egyptian armies. God saved Israel from the Egyptians just like he promised he was going to do. Because as we're going to see in our next video, God is faithful, and he always keeps his promises. But as we've been talking about today, God was sovereign over every little detail in that story. He was sovereign over the king's heart. He was sovereign over Pharaoh's army. He was sovereign over that huge sea and so much more. God saved his people and did it his way and in his timing. God had the right wisdom and power to do exactly as he pleased. So how did Israel respond to God? Well, they responded the same way that you and I should act toward a God who is sovereign over all things. In Exodus chapter 14, we read in verse 31, when Israel saw the great power that the Lord used against the Egyptians, the people feared the Lord and believed in him. May that be true of each and every one of us as well.